Here's your heads up to this podcast. Well, it actually follows on from the previous podcast, all about beliefs and values, and when I was being tested on my beliefs. And this is the more how to use and find, or let's go turn it back on itself, Paul, how to find your beliefs and values and then use them. Use them to create the life that you want. Because when you do that, you are creating your reality. That's no bullshit. We just go and do it.
Warning.
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 Warning. You are entering into the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. Too late. Personal Development Unplugged.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Personal Development Unplugged podcast with me, Paul Clough. And, well, I hope you remember from the last podcast, the one about where someone was saying they believed what you did actually was your identity. And I said, that challenged my thoughts, challenged my beliefs. And I still came back to that belief that your beliefs, my beliefs and values are really the things that tell people and tell you who you really are. And they actually influence what you do. So what you do actually just is an indication of your beliefs and values. So I'm still there. But I also said there was a little how-to in there. Little how-to. If you remember the big picture, I said, think about just you, your life, that big picture of you and what's important to you. And I said, if you remember, get some Post-it pads. And as you come up with an idea, when you ask yourself, well, what is important to me about life? You come up with an answer, you write it down on that Post-it pad, put it to one side. And then you go, well, what else is important to me? And you write that on another sticky Post-it. And then another, what else is important? What else is important? Until you've got maybe 8 to 10. And obviously it tends to be the first 2 or 3 are the ones that come super consciously. And then it's the more unconscious values come to your attention. And the thing is to do it with speed. Because if you start thinking and going, I wonder what else would be a good one to write down. Well, once you start doing that, it's all conscious. And we want unconscious. Because your values and beliefs are really an unconscious thing. That's how you work. They work below the level of your conscious mind and influence, I believe, everything you do. And once you've done that, you put them all in one place so you can see them all, and you go, if I could only have one, which one would be the most important to me? Pick that up. Number 1 goes at the top of the tree. If I could only have one of the rest, what would that be? Well, it'd be this one. And you mark that number 2, put it on another, just underneath the number 1, and so on and so on. So you get a hierarchy of your values, of just your general life values. If you remember, I said that's the first step. But ideally, you want to start looking at your career or your relationships or your close relationship, your health, your spirituality, or any other area of life. And you might even want to break those areas down a little bit. Because what is health, if you think about it? It could be diet, it could be exercise, it could be learning your mind. Maybe that's part of your career, would be learning. There's also the time involved. What do you want? Where do you want to go? What type of relationships? Because you've got like that close relationship. Maybe you're in a close relationship, and we'll talk about that later. But maybe you haven't got one, so you want to understand your values of a relationship, a close relationship, so you can understand maybe why you're not finding that person, because you're looking for people with different values. And if the values are so opposite, there's going to be a clash. Opposites don't always attract. You have to have a lot of similarities in your values, I believe, that allow you to start moving together. Or it could be social dynamics. So many different areas you could break these larger contexts into. But I want to give you an example. Give you an example how I use this. Because I've taught it to, at one time, Joseph, my younger son, and I were asked to speak at various trainings where accountants and credit managers were there. Now, their jobs are all to do with numbers, computers, figures, very analytical people, or generally, it's a big generalization, Clovey, but generally their job consists of looking at figures. And sometimes when you do that so much, you don't tend to understand the workings of the team around you. So if you're a manager and you've got this team of people but you're so involved with the analytical side of life, you tend to forget the things which are going on. And so we used to teach them what we used to do. And certainly, you see, when I learnt this, I thought this is awesome. As you remember, I did it on myself, and then I did it with my partner, Mike, my work partner, that is, and found out he had similar values, which is a bit of luck because we'd already been at work for about a year. But then I decided to do all our managers. And we're in the construction industry, so they're hairy-ass bunch of lads, lovely people, but we were in the muck and the bullets. So finesse and things like that wasn't always, we weren't in suits, put it that way. And I used to talk to them and say, you got 10 minutes. And Cluffy does weird stuff because he knew I did hypnosis and things like that. And they were, okay, Paul, I'll do it with you. And I said, do you mind if I just find your values about what you really want about work? And they all go, oh, it's all about money. It's about money, Paul. I always want money. I said, okay, well, let's start afresh. And I'd get some sticky pads out, those old Post-it pads. And I'd do exactly what I just said to you. I said to them, each one individually, so what's important to you about your job? And they go, oh, it's money, Paul. Okay, I'll write money down. And then they'd do something else and what else is important to you. And we'd get 8 to 10, as I said, just like I've asked you to do. Then we do the hierarchy. And that's when it really used to pee them off a little bit, because they had to admit that money wasn't number one. Very rarely is money number one in the hierarchy of the values of a career. Because if you think about it, if it's just money, you can go anywhere to earn more money, but you might have to work way, way, way from home. You may have to do things you don't really like doing. You might have to do things that are against your morals. All those things. But obviously I tend to find that money comes up in the top 5 because you have to have enough money to satisfy what goes on around you. But anyway, we did this, and I did this with this one particular guy. Lovely lad. His name was Paul too. Not two, Paul as well. And we went through his values. And as usual, money was going to be the first one, and then it wasn't. But the hierarchy came out as he really needed interesting jobs. He needed things with a bit of difficulty where he could really have to think about how we were going to construct these things. He didn't just want boring, repetitive jobs. Okay. He also wanted safe working conditions because we used to work at a lot of heights and a lot of deep holes and things like that. And he didn't like that. He didn't like that responsibility. So he wanted something on a pretty level playing field. And then the third one was, well, he had this thing about distance from home. He liked to be home in good time. And he had this thing about, it's basically, Paul, it's within about half hour. I don't like travelling any further than that. Okay, we went on through the rest. I thought, ooh, okay, that's good. We now know what Paul's values are for work. And as time went on, just a little bit later, Mike and I, we got this particular project. Now, the thing is, we wanted Paul to do this job. But the thing is, it was a little bit further. Well, actually, quite a lot further than that half hour. Now, we just knew that if in the old days, when they just said, oh, Paul, I want you to go there, and he'd go, how far away is it? That's too far. I don't want to go. So what we did was, I went and saw him first and said, Paul, got this little project we would like you to look at. I'd like you to look at it, but probably, you see, it's really interesting because no one has done this type of work before. It was all about a wall that went, well, the technical thing was it leaned in and went round corners and had different cambers and apexes, and it was really weird. It was actually a Indy 500 racetrack wall in England. Weird stuff. So it was the first of its kind, and we were there going to be doing it. So I said, that is prestigious, it's completely different, and it is going to really rock your brain to do that. And the thing is, it's on a flat site, because it's, cambered, but it's a racetrack. It's not got hills, it's not got anything high, there's no 10-story buildings there, it's just a racetrack, but this wonderful wall on the outside and the inside. Well, I said, I know you don't want that, because it's too far. And he went, whoa, Paul, what are you talking about? Wait, just tell me more. So I showed him a few of the drawings, showed him what we're going to be doing. And he goes, wow, that is really going to test me, that one. Oh, it doesn't matter how far it is, Paul. I will do that. How long is it for? And I said, well, this part of the job is probably only about, 3 or 4 months. Oh, I can do that. I can do it for that because it's going to be so interesting. And yeah, safe. I'm going to worry about people falling off things. So that's really good. I can do that. He enjoyed that job so much that having jumped at it, it continued on for 18 months. and he enjoyed it completely. We never had one thing about time, being away from home that little bit further. All he would do is phone up and say, "Oh, you come and have a look at this, come and have a look at this." And every time I used to go on to the building site there where this thing is going on, he would take me around and show me all the things that we were doing. And that's the type of thing I got the credit managers to think about. Getting to know what the values and the beliefs of their team were. Because if things weren't going right, it might not be the first thing you think of. If they're unhappy, maybe they want more money, or they don't understand it. Well, maybe they do understand it, but maybe they've got there's a clash of values somewhere else. Maybe it's their home life. Maybe they're understanding what their hobbies are. You can actually put them into, or their values, their hobbies and the things they really enjoy. You can actually put them in a different area of that team so they start to shine, just like Paul did. It's incredible what you can do. And then think about it. We were talking about relationships, a close relationship. Now, I guess we all have to work at relationships. The first time, it's just like being in that massive chemicals firing off in your brains. And then if you don't work at it, maybe it doesn't work quite so well. You have to put that little bit of effort in, as you do with everything you do, I guess. But what would happen if, just for a bit of fun, you did this exercise with your partner, and you did this exercise with you, and you shared it to each other? Now, something might happen. There might be a clash. So you've got things to work out. You've got to find then how you can integrate, how you can find, something that is compatible to you both. But you may find as well, I'm sure you will, that there are 2 or 3 values at the top that you are both madly, because they're yours, they're so important to you. They might be slightly different to yours, or in a different type of modality. We've talked before about relationships where people like to be either touched, or they like to be told things, or they like to be given things, shown affection in that way. And for the people who like to be told it and you just touch them, they just don't get it. It's their different hierarchy of those 3 type of elements. So if you understand what's important to somebody in that relationship with you, you can make sure that they're satisfied in those areas of value, those areas that are important, because they believe they're important. And because it's so much part of their identity, it's going to be so critical. So when you have that, again, think about your health. Think about your spirituality, your career. Because if you did this in each of those contexts, there will be times when you say, well, actually, I want to be healthy, but I just don't seem to get there. Or maybe you're going to find there's a clash of values, and you have to temper them. You have to look at them differently. And I'm not going to go through all the different ways of looking at values at the moment, but just understanding what your values are. And if you have a clash, just asking, I wonder, what would it be like if I could find the middle ground? How can I maybe increase this value that I have to make it more important to my life? Because it's going to help me get better at the rest of my life. That's the type of thing I'm thinking of. Because I think when you do this, the return on your investment is massive. That's a note. I made a little meta note on this, as I do, as you know that. Return on investment. How much time you're putting in this? It doesn't take too long. Even the thinking time, maybe if you did it for an hour, you'd learn so much that you would get so much back than the time you spent. And the thing is, when you do this, you become the driver of that bus that we've talked about before. You become in charge of you by understanding you. And if there's a problem, you can look at it, work it out, ask the right questions. Because when you get to understand these type of things, you tend to light a fire in your belly. And you get to do more things because you'll do the things that align with your values, because you'll understand yourself better, and you'll then start to do the things which are important to you, which just makes life so much more. There you go. That was like the add-on to the last podcast where we talked about values. This one's not quite so long. It's just a little popped in one, as it were, to finish this part off about values. I'd love to know what you thought about this, how you put the two together. Did you actually go through those different areas of your life? Because I think it's really critical that you do. You don't have to, but I think it's, if you're here, I know you are here listening to this because you have your dreams, your goals. You really want to improve your life If you didn't, you wouldn't be here. You put a value on your personal development. You put a value on the things that you want for you, your goals, your dreams. And when you understand your values, you'll be encouraging yourself to take those dreams and to make sure those dreams align with your values, which then gives you the motivation. And then you'll understand the times in the past where you didn't quite get those goals, because then you realize they weren't failures. They were just you not actually finding the ingredients to match your beliefs and values. Then you'll also find when you really are aligned, congruent in the direction you're going, fears disappear. They become excitement. Yeah, there'll be a little bit of nervousness sometimes because you're going past your boundary. You'll be enforcing your boundaries, pushing them bigger and further away by taking these wonderful steps in your adventure. And hey, you're going to know that this is the right way. And what happens after that? Have a think. If you were to do all of that, what would happen? Well, you'd do it again, probably. You'd find out different areas of your life because you'd be tested, and you're going to find out that there's so much more for you to do and enjoy. You would then be that example, the example of the person you want to be to others, showing to others how much is possible. You can actually share this. Obviously, I'd love you to share the podcast, but you can share this little exercise to understand the values. I mean, I couldn't, before I ever thought about any of this, imagine talking to the guys that work with me who are in the mud and bullets of a construction job, sitting down and getting so interested, because once they get into it, they were talking about themselves. So if you run a team, to me, this is such a must. If you want to know more about it for running a team, let me know and we'll do another pod. That's short for podcast, by the way. I don't know why. I thought that was, no. Anyway, please do let me know. How'd you let me know? You know by now, but if you didn't, maybe it's your first time. Maybe you're a virgin to the Personal Development Unplugged podcast. Well, if you are, just hit the email, which is this: feedback@personaldevelopmentunplugged. That's it. It'll come straight to me personally. It will not go on any list. It will not be given anywhere because I don't do things like that. And I'll reply to you personally. Just let me know if there's things that you need. That's what this is all about, this sharing. This is my way of giving stuff to you and for you to share it back and share it with other people, because you'll inspire them. And the thing about it is, when you do this with other people, you learn it at a deeper level as well, because by teaching it to others, you learn even more. I learn more and more by just doing this with you. I learn what I don't know. I learn what I do know. I learn what I forget sometimes, and it brings it back. So these are the things that really make my little heart go boom, 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 boom. Because it's so exciting to know that we're all changing together and creating this different world. Anyway, that's enough of the slushy stuff. Please do share this podcast. As I say, there'll be a little note at the end of it to do the same thing, because you have to rattle it home. Because if you think about it, I want to ask you an honest question, or ask you a question for an honest answer. How many times have you shared this podcast? And how many, have you put a review up to it? Because if you've got something from one of these podcasts, only one, but I would hope there's at least one takeaway that you get from every podcast, every episode. To me, there should be more than that, but at least one. Because not everyone's going to hit the mark, but they should get something to get your brain going. If you've had just one, pay it forward. Pay it forward in sharing and a review. That would be awesome if you did, because it makes my day. There's no adverts on this, just making this a worthwhile place to come and learn and grow. That's what it's here for. Anyway, until next time, have more fun than you can stand. And I just want to have a little whisper to your unconscious mind. Remember to surprise their conscious mind by just suddenly feeling happy for no reason. That'll blow their minds in such a wonderful way. Have fun. And by the way, when it happens, let me know. Bye-bye now. It's Paul Clough, Personal Development Unplugged. If you're suffering from things like anger, excessive anger in your life, too much sadness that keeps recurring and recurring, fear of anything, or just grieving too much about loss, maybe you're jealous, Or maybe your self-confidence it's never high enough. Or like your self-esteem, that's never high enough. And it should be. And you shouldn't have to suffer through anger, sadness, fear, grief, jealousy. Do you know what? I hadn't thought about this for a little while, but why don't you come and work with me? Because, I've told you before that I work online, I do coaching, I do therapy online, but I've never really thought about offering it directly to you. So why not? Don't listen to what other people say when they say, things take such a long time, because they don't. 2-3 sessions is generally all that's needed to get rid of some of the biggest problems in people's lives. I see it day in, day out with my clients. So if that's something you can consider, because I do know this, that we always put things off. We put things off, and then we'll go to that bit where we go, oh, if only I did. So here's the thing. Imagine that putting off has gone by, and you've decided to send me an email. An email at feedback@personaldevelopmentunplugged.com saying, hi Paul, I've got this issue. I'd like to work with you, and here's my telephone number, here's my email address. And the thing is, what would happen is we get in contact over the internet, online. We do an initial consultation. It doesn't take very long to make sure that we're a good fit and make sure you're really comfortable with me. I know you've listened to me a lot, but you really want to see the whites of my eyes, and let me explain how we work together. And if that is right, and it's right for you, and I want to make sure it's right for you, I don't work with just anybody and everybody, only the people who I feel I can really help. Then we'll organise 2 or 3 sessions and get the thing sorted. Okay? So why not send me that email now? Don't think any longer. Stop. Get online. Give me an email, and let's do some work together. If you really are interested in making deep changes, I really always suggest one-to-one. Yes, this Personal Development Unplugged podcast gives you all the tools, but let's get rid of the deep underlying issues so you can really make use of all the tools here. Anyway, that's enough from me. If you want it and you want to let go of that stuff really quickly, and you like me, and you'd like to work with me, then send me that email. If it's not for you, that's fine. Just keep listening and keep sharing. Okay? Anyway, I'll hear from you real soon, I'm sure. See you now.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.